don't want to send a message. It's fine, we're back, we're live. Accidentally misclicked, so we're working on Teval, Arbiter of Virtue. Here she is, in case you need a reminder of how she works. And we are 80 spells right now, and Teval needs to be 60 spells, 40 lands. Counting Teval herself. It's been brutal finishing this one off, so many of the cards on the list, so many of the cards we've cut in the past, 4 streams have been things I really wanted to try in Teval, or things I thought would be great for her. So, these last 20 cuts are going to hurt so much. Going to get there, though, because we want her done in time for the Final Fantasy set release, or pre-release, rather. Can't really cut Animate Dead, can't cut Demonic Tutor. Notice Soul Ring. Mana Drain should almost definitely not be cut. It is possible. Nature's Lore, we've already cut enough of her ramp. She needs something to help get her down sooner while still having mana to do things. Grim Feast is a card I don't want to cut for the potential massive life gain of it. Teval is not weak at killing opponents' creatures, so being able to gain huge chunks of life if they play large enough creatures is definitely viable. We also have 3 different wrath effects in the deck that would gain us a ton of life. One of them will kill Grim Feast in the process, but that's okay. If we're popping that particular thing, then we kind of needed to anyway, so we might as well gain a huge chunk of life while we're at it. And we can also get the Grim Feast back. We can get everything back eventually with this deck. Mystical Tutor and Worldly Tutor do have the potential to go. They're both very strong in the deck still. We have a ton of card draw, so it is not unreasonable to expect to actually just be able to draw the card we tutored the same turn that we tutor it. We also have some value in being able to mill the card, especially with Worldly Tutor, knowing that we're going to mill a specific creature in order to set up Reanimator cards or other effects. Yeah, Vampiric definitely stays. Mystical and Worldly might wind up going. I have to make 20 cuts. Something's gotta give. And they are less important than the other tutors in the deck. Animate is almost definitely staying. Scroll Rack pretty much has to stay. Between the shuffling effects that we're running and the self-mill, being able to adjust what is on top of our deck is very important to this particular build, so. Time Stretch, one of our better payoffs. Traumatize, one of our better setup cards that can also win us the game with some of our other cards if we want to change back to the default of targeting an opponent. Normally we're just going to want to put half of our deck into the graveyard, though, in order to fuel our other spells, so. The Traumatize almost definitely stays. There is a chance I can cut it. We do have, Jace, the M11 Jace, the one that mills a whole bunch. Memory Adept, I believe, is his title. The one that can mill a player for 10. So we don't need Traumatize. We could also, and I've said it a few times, normally I don't pull cards from the upcoming set when doing the deck build, but there is the blue Adventureland in Final Fantasy that is a Traumatize for one more mana and then can be played as a tapped blue source afterwards. And that would free up a deck space without losing the Traumatize effect, so it's tempting. Excuse me. Mental Note, we're not going to cut. I shouldn't say we're not going to cut. There's like a 90% chance I don't cut this card. Drawing and milling, especially in the early game, are both super helpful to this deck. Being able to put 3 cards in the graveyard while also filtering towards my next land or something is very potent for this deck, because then once Teval's in play, that's 3 extra mana to work with. So the early self-mill is very important to get Teval started, or to rebuild after an opponent has exiled our graveyard or something. Fabricate, we have so many strong artifacts. Like, I'm more inclined to cut Mystical and Worldly than I am Fabricate, just because of the potent artifacts that we still have left. Being able to tutor up O-Stone to blow up the board. Just the ones on this page right now. Well of Lost Dreams, Crucible, Mindslaver. But also things like Whip of Erebos, Shadow Spear, Sensei's Top. Like, there are too many strong artifacts in this deck that work super well with the strategy that we're doing. And most of them do not have a redundant card, like a secondary card that's also doing this effect, so really want to be able to tutor for the appropriate ones at the appropriate time. And like I said, it's probably more important to be able to do that than it is to be able to tutor a creature or an instant or sorcery, so Well of Lost Dreams. I don't think I can cut Well of Lost Dreams. Gaining huge amounts of life is part of our game plan, and not running out of big spells to cast is also pretty important, so turning our life gain into card draw, especially if we don't have to spend the mana to cast the spell. If we are exiling cards from the graveyard, we might have mana left over just to draw cards arbitrarily, because Teval has lifelink, so anything that gains us life, and Teval has lifelink herself, so we should be able to gain life pretty consistently. There should be somebody we can attack any given turn cycle just to gain some life. Even if they're chump blocking, as long as we are actually gaining life, it doesn't matter. Crucible of Worlds, Eternal Witness. Eternal Witness I don't think can go. That's one of the few ways we have to get anything back. We do have a lot of ways to get assorted things back, but very few that can just grab anything all on their own. Steve, one of our few ramp cards. Yeah, we cut every ramp card that does not go to the graveyard as part of its ramping effect, except for Soul Ring. So, like, Arcane Signet was one of the last cards we cut yesterday. Farseek. Damnation kind of has to stay. Polluted Bonds can go, but I feel really bad about cutting it. It's kind of up there with Grim Feast. Polluted Bonds, Grim Feast, and to a lesser extent, Fangren Marauder all can potentially gain me huge amounts of life, but I have a lot less control over the Grim Feast and Polluted Bonds because I need the opponents to do things. But Fangren Marauder, like, it doesn't care whose artifacts go, so we can still get rid of our artifacts and gain life, which is good for the few treasures and foods that we're making, and clues. But all 3 of them reward us for opponents' things happening, so I really don't want to get rid. And they're all life gain based too, so I'm very disinclined to get rid of them. The one we have the most control over is actually Blood Chief Ascension, which also falls in the same category because that's just cards going to their graveyard from anywhere, and we can mill them if we want to with a lot of our cards. Sorry, I'm all raspy again, and I wasn't when I started. It's frustrating. Glenalendra Archmage is one of our pieces of interaction. We cut quite a bit of the interaction already. I don't know that I can cut much more of it, despite the fact that it is the largest sublist. Like, I'm pretty sure it still has like 18 cards on it, whereas even the big spell payoffs is only like 15 or something. So we might have to cut like one more piece of removal, maybe two. I'm hesitant to go too low on removal because we kind of need it in order to set off other things in our deck. Like, we don't gain life for the opponent's creatures dying if they don't actually die, and if we can't kill them just because we want to, then we have to get into combat with them, and then they have more say over which creatures are dying and when, and this turns into a whole thing. I want to be able to reach out and kill their stuff when we need to, and while some decks can get away with only a handful of removal spells just for those most important things, I think this deck wants to be able to keep killing things. So we need a critical mass of actual interaction. I love Hedron Crab's ability to self-mill so much with all the fetch lands that I naturally run, so I'm desperate to keep that one in here. It might be the weakest of the self-mill cards just because that's all it's doing. Like, every other self-mill card in the deck has other applications, card draw. Actually, that's not entirely true. Traumatize has the same applications because it only mills a target player a whole lot of cards. It falls in the same category as Hedron Crab at that point, where the only way I get additional utility out of it is if I have something like Blood Chief Ascension down already and active, in which case them milling a whole lot of cards is going to get them killed very quickly. But it is one of the stronger setup cards in the deck. That might still mean that it goes, though, because it's low enough impact outside of its ability to do that, and we have a lot of other cards that will self-mill me and do other things. So, like, I keep almost cutting Emery and finally did cut Dredger's Insight or whatever it's called, the one from Aether Drift. So maybe it's going to be Hedron Crab. It could also legitimately be Traumatized, but if I cut Traumatized, then I'm going to take full advantage of the Final Fantasy land and jam it in anyway. I keep saying I should do that. I think at this point I'm about to. I do not know the name of the thing. Oh, no, not Gather. We want to do Skyfall. We want to do Pipeline is land. Our commander is mono blue, and the set is Final Fantasy. Yeah, I'm just gonna take advantage of it. Jador. Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot. This is Final Fantasy 2, right? Final Fantasy. Wait. Oh, Jador is where Locke's girlfriend is from? Or no, is Jador where the opera house is? That might be it. Maria might be the Who's Locke's girlfriend then? If it's not Maria, what was her name again? I'm getting distracted. No, for some reason I thought this was Final Fantasy II. Because I'm thinking of Maria, who is Firian's girlfriend. Yeah, I'm confusing Marias here from various Final Fantasies. Yeah, it says Jador resident. Maria the opera star then? She has to be. But now I'm blanking on Locke's girlfriend's name, and that's gonna bother me. Anyway, so yeah, the Adventurer's Overture. It has to be where the Opera House is, which is why I don't remember the name of the town, because you just go to the Opera House. Like, there's nothing else really going on. Alright, so yeah. Land. Sorry. It's not Jador Opera House. Now I'm doing it's like, no, it's the Opera House. It's gotta be what it is, so Jador Aristocratic Capital. Oops. Aristocratic. There we go. Capital. Overture. This is land. It is 4 blue for a sorcery. Adventure. Oh, that's target opponent mills half their library. Shoot, we can't use Jador. I kind of need it to be able to target me, that's the whole point. My brain just auto-corrected it to target player mills half their library. Shoot. Well, we can't do that now. After all of that. Yep, okay. Too far. Far enough. There we go, Zendikar. So that was me thinking about cutting Hedron Crab. And we kind of really can't now. Well, we can, but we can't use Traumatize. We can't use Jador to replace Traumatize, so... Alright. That's off the table. Like, I could still see losing Traumatize. It's a big burst of mana for the deck, though. Especially, well, it has to be colorless because of the way the deck works, but 2 blue and 3 cards out of my graveyard to put, like, 20 plus cards in my graveyard to fuel everything else that I'm doing seems alright. It might still have to go just because I don't have room. Yeah, just bumped one of the wires. I don't know if the thing picked up the beep noise or not, but... Not cutting Exquisite Blood. That's one of my better life gain cards. Cyclonic Rift, Whip of Erebos. Hey, moving my feet now before I kick this thing and make it beep again. Not cutting Ulamog. Probably not cutting Noxious. Don't want to cut Disallow. Might be Heroic Intervention. That's the biggest thing. So, Heroic Intervention essentially counters spells that kill my things, or counters them but only for me if they're mass board wipes. But the actual counter spells counter those cards and then some. So the only position where Heroic Intervention is actually better than any of them is when everybody's stuff is getting killed and suddenly mine is the only stuff that's not getting killed. So also, it's a lot easier to leave up 1 green and cards in my graveyard than it is the 2 blue for almost all of the counter spells on the list. Keep talking myself into keeping things that I probably can't afford to keep. Burn Sun's Avatar gains me 5 life initially, just from it entering the battlefield, assuming that it doesn't get hit with a -X, and die in response to the trigger. So it offsets the 7 damage that I'm going to take if Teval's out, then gains me more life each time I do things, which, given the number of cards that make bodies when cards leave my graveyard, is literally almost anything that I can do will cause me to gain life at that point. It's not that hard for me to break even the turn that I cast Verdant Sun's Avatar and then just keep gaining more life after that. Oh, I don't want to cut Muldrotha. Muldrotha gives me access to so many things. My graveyard. And the fact that she doesn't exile anything, like no finality counters or anything, is super, super helpful with this deck. And we have enough ways to get her back that even if she immediately eats a removal spell, because she has to get exiled in order to be gone forever. Yeah, I'm not prepared to cut Muldrotha. I'm not prepared to cut, like, any card left on this list. I thought we were at least going to be able to get away with making the one thing into the land, but stupid Wizards changing it to target opponent. Like, what happened to making cards open-ended so that way you could do cool things with them? Remember when that was a thing and they weren't trying to save you 10 million clicks on Arena? They wanted to give you more options instead. That way your cards had more unique ways to play them and more interaction. And you could feel smart about figuring out that you could actually use them in ways that they don't naturally lend themselves towards. I remember. Now, granted, I do appreciate the shift away from must target something to up to one or may, but I do miss when you could target your own stuff with most of the negative things for those times where it would actually be helpful. Not gonna cut Jingataxis if I can help it. Not cutting Shigeki if I can help it. Like, Shuldred just is kind of locked in. Shuldred's another one of those, like, my opponent is losing life for doing things that I don't technically have any control over, but they're going to be doing anyway. But I kind of wish I just had something that gained me a ton of life whenever I drew cards. Because Shuldred's going to die to stop the damage that she's dealing, and I'm going to lose out on my life gain because of that. Sunder, up the Beanstalk. We already cut Consecrated Sphinx. I don't think I can lose up the Beanstalk also. Aftermath Analyst. Chalk Outline, Doppelgang. Doppelgang's gotta be one of my best payoff spells for being able to eat my entire graveyard. Steps, Glarb, Drag to the Roots, Overlord, Glacier Siege, in I think I am gonna cut Traumatize at this rate. Like, I would rather have the early mill set up from the crab than have a mid-game card that's going to give me a ton of cards in the graveyard. Like, if we have the crab, we should be able to mill ourselves even if we've lost our entire graveyard anyway. And especially with all of the fetches that I'm running. It does make me wish I had a tiny bit more room for some basics, though. That way, Fable Passage and Prismatic Vista would actually be viable. Alright, in that same vein, do I cut Jace? I have a whole lot of ways to mill myself that aren't Jace. Problem is, both Jace and Traumatize work really well with Bloodchief Ascension, and I don't think I'm cutting the Bloodchief Ascension. But the Ascension is doing its own thing anyway. Like, it doesn't need us to necessarily mill the opponent. Cards are going to go to the opponent's graveyard from them casting spells and getting into combat in addition to any mill that I might be able to point at them, so. Unreasonable to cut the two big mill cards, even though both of them can probably kill an opponent outright. Like, Traumatize kills most opponents wherever they are in life total. Jace kind of needs them to be at 20 or less in order to one-shot them. But yeah, I am hurting for cuts. I think we cut the two more expensive self-mill cards. I definitely don't want to cut the cheaper ones. I want them online before Teval comes down, so. Not cutting Transfusion. It could still be Metamorphosis Fanatic. Like, the other Reanimator cards are way more important to the deck than the Fanatic is, but bringing back one of my giant creatures with lifelink is so helpful. Also, I have enough deck manipulation where I can make it so the Fanatic is the first card I'm drawing in a turn. Not a ton of it, but just enough. which is helping as part of the argument for Worldly Tutor staying in the deck, which means if I cut the Fanatic, it's easier to cut Worldly Tutor, which might be a thing that's happening, because I need 20 cuts, and I'm about to cut 2 cards after half an hour of bouncing back and forth over everything. God, I wish that blue land milled me. I feel a lot, or could mill me. Hell, I wish it could mill me. Like, I would run it if it could only mill me. But since it can only mill opponents, it's just not going to make it in. Locke's girlfriend's name Rebecca. That sounds right to me. I played that game so many times, but it has been probably at this point, if not 20 years, close to 20 years since the last time I played it. I'm pretty sure the last time I played it was like early 2000s for the remake, or like very late 90s, like 90, 98, 99, like the PlayStation remake re-release was the last time I played it. Yeah, forget if that one came with Chrono Trigger or 5, but I did not actually own Chrono Trigger. I did play it when it came, like around the time it came out. I actually loaned my friend Final Fantasy VI back when it was Final Fantasy III because it was the third one released in North America. So I loaned him Final Fantasy III and he loaned me Chrono Trigger. And we both played through and beat the other one's game. But you look at my like Squaresoft collection from back then, and Chrono Trigger's like the glaring thing that's missing from it. Anyway, am I cutting Metamorphosis Fanatic? I think that I can, and because I think that I can, I think we're going to. Alright. Well, the Temur stays, other Teval stays, Teval's Judgment stays, Court of Change, Alpha Deathclaw, Amzu. Yeah, okay, so we cut the Fanatic, got Traumatize. Other references to Metamorphosis Fanatic off of their respective lists. He was on a lot of sublists, Life Gain, Reanimator, and being an expensive spell is one of our payoffs. Alright, let's get rid of Jace. Alright, so that's 3 cards off the list. 77. Oh, go away, stupid hot thing. So clear those out. those out. Not click on the right thing. Okay, we're at 77. All the things are gone. I didn't accidentally post anything from it, so. Alright, what is Mystical Tutor actually getting for me at this point? Demonic Tutor, Mana Drain. Any of my land fetching. Technically Worldly Tutor or Vampiric if I need to get something else. But tutoring for things that put cards on top by putting those cards on top seems really bad. Like, it's one thing to go, okay, well, I can tutor for it and I can probably draw it. Is another thing to go, well, I can tutor for it and then draw it, but then I have to tutor for the thing I actually want and still have another way to draw it, and that's asking an awful lot. I feel like, depending on where I'm at, like, sometimes it won't be. You know, sometimes I've gained a bunch of life and I have Well of Lost Dreams in play, so it's just an extra mana each time, but other times it's going to be like, yeah, no, I literally cannot draw another card this turn. Reanimate is a thing I can tutor for. Time Stretch, Mental Note. Fabricate to tutor for an artifact, essentially. For 2 blue and 2. Damnation. There's Exsanguinate. There are so many good things I can tutor for. Maybe we don't need Worldly, though. Like, there's not... There are creatures, and there are going to be times when I wish I had a specific creature, but I think we have enough other things going on that I don't necessarily need a creature tutor. Yeah, okay, I can talk myself out of it and leave the other tutors intact. Sorry, Worldly. And I kicked that thing again. I fixed my posture. Alright, can we find 6 more cuts? Let's go back to the sublists and see if anything stands out now. Alright, so big payoff spells. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Like, maybe I can spare one more. But a lot of these things either have some innate utility or are just so powerful that's kind of the whole reason I'm building the deck, is to be able to cast spells like this. Like things like Ugin and the Noxious Gearhulk are very utilitarian. They're just kind of expensive. We come back up here to life gain. We have Grim Feast, Polluted Bonds, Blood Chief, Sanguinate. Troll Dread's not on this list still. I'm gonna wind up cutting Shadow Spear or something, aren't I? Like, none of my stuff is gonna innately have lifelink without Whip of Erebos in play. Besides the things that actually have lifelink printed on them. They're not innately, but, like, most of my stuff's not gonna be able to gain lifelink unless I have Whip of Erebos in play. Because we've cut the Fanatic, we've cut Basilisk Collar, and now I'm looking at Shadow Spear going, do I actually need this? And the answer is I kind of really want it still. Like, out of all of them, I want it to stay on the list. Maybe it's too weak. Comparison to everything else, anyway. It's not going to have any equipment proper. Or any equipment at all, actually. There's not even anything that turns into equipment or whatnot. Not thrilled with it, but I think it might actually be one of the cards that needs to go. Alright. And if you had told me at the start of this that I was going to wind up cutting Shadow Spear and Basilisk Collar, I'd believe you, but I'd also be very confused what the final deck looks like. Like, did I really have enough life gain after that? I think that I do. I hate getting rid of the ability to take away Indestructible and Hexproof, though. Like, that's super useful. I don't know what else I can cut at this point. So, remaining self-mill cards. Mental Note, Hedron Crab, Thought Scour, Emery, Aftermath Analyst, Overlord, Glacier Woods, 6, and Teval. Yeah, I think all of those have to stay. I think we've cut too much of the other self-mill. Like, even Hedron Crab kind of has to stay now, because that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's less than 10 self-mill cards. Regrowth slash reanimator effects. Animate Dead, Reanimate, Eternal Witness, Whip of Erebos, Muldrotha, Emery, Shigeki, and 6. Again, I kind of like that. Alright, removal and interaction, because this is where I have a lot of redundancy, but I still need enough things. I can't afford to just keep cutting things from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It's too many. What am I going to cut? It's just a few too many cards on the list. I need to get rid of some stuff. Three Steps Ahead and Disallow both have a lot of utility to them. Like, I think I lose Three Steps Ahead before I lose Disallow, which means I'll have lost all of the kicker variant cards, I think, that were initially on the list. Oh well. But yeah, I think Disallow being able to counter activated and triggered abilities is just so much more powerful. Legitimately, though, it should probably at least be in contention for the new card. The cost 2 more if I don't sacrifice a legendary creature for a negate that can also counter activated or triggered abilities. Like, I would lose the ability to counter a creature spell, but I would also be able to cast it for a single blue mana in this deck, even without a legendary creature in play. As long, well, I'd have Teval in that scenario, but then I don't need to sacrifice Teval. I can just exile 2 cards from my graveyard because it's an additional cost to cast. So, but that's not helping me right now. So, yeah, if I have to cut another card, I think it's Three Steps Ahead. And I don't think I can lose any more counter magic. Because most of my counter magic now can't hit creatures. It's Disallow and Mana Drain are the only two that can, out of the 4 that are remaining. Yeah, any other removal is going to have to be less preemptive. Gotta lose stuff from this list. There's just too much here. I suppose Cyclonic Rift is close enough to Kicker in that I can pay, 5 extra mana. Bounce everything. Cutting Ulamog. I think I can ever cut Casualties of War from a green-black deck. Do I lose Oko and just have to deal with problematic commanders the old-fashioned way of making them too expensive for the opponent to recast? That doesn't work with every single commander. There are a few where it's just like, no, this thing is actually a problem, and putting in the command zone does not do anything. I also lose out on the food production. I don't want to cut Oko, but I'm running out of things that I can cut, and while Oko removes the abilities, he does not actually kill the thing. There will be times when I'm more concerned about killing the thing. God, that feels bad to cut Oko. He does the things he's doing so well, and they're things I want to have happen, but I don't think I can cut any of the hard removal I have left, and I need to make some concessions from this list because it's way too long. Yeah. So it goes. This is why it takes me forever to finish the deck lists, because we get into situations like this. Do I cut the Gear Hulk and just have the Alpha Deathclaw left? As far as comes into play, kills a thing? The downside of cutting the Gear Hulk is I can't tutor for Deathclaw with Fabricate. So I'm losing a little bit of Fabricate utility by not being able to tutor up a creature removal spell when I need it. That might be correct. Yeah, unfortunately, this feels like a let me think about it a little bit more. Alright, we're already at the 50-minute mark, so take a quick look at least at my card draw. Yeah, a lot of those don't feel like they can get cut, and the ramp spells are at a bare minimum anyway. Alright, let's get rid of Oko. God, this feels terrible. Oh, there's the Shadow Spear right there, so that just leaves 3 steps. Okay. How many times did I spell out the number 3? Usually I just use the number, like the actual number. So now I'm... Oh, 3 kingdoms, 3 visits, got it. Okay. Like, 3 kingdoms I should have been able to remember. 3 visits, though, is the one where I was going to blank on the name. Oh, I accidentally cut 3 steps instead of leading it there. So, yeah, these 3 come off the list. So we didn't even get 10 full cards off the list this time. We still need 13 cuts. I mean, we're going to get there before the pre-release. The deck will be done, but this is getting dragged on so much by my inability to just cut the things. Alright. Well, we gotta call it there, because I'm gonna need to leave for work soon. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good rest of your day.